The European Union's crisis response working group is meeting to discuss concerns about an escalation of the war in Ukraine. According to sources, they will also touch on the ongoing referendums in occupied areas of Ukraine aimed at annexing territory to Russia, and on how the EU aims to handle scores of Russian men trying to enter the bloc to escape conscription. Well, Trent Murray is joining us live from Berlin with more. Trent, why first was the EU crisis meeting even called?
Well, this is being very much led by the Czech Republic, and the reason for that is they currently hold the rotating presidency of the European Union, and they say, I'm just going to quote here what their spokesperson says, our decision to call a meeting so swiftly and at the level of EU ambassadors demonstrates just how seriously we being the EU, are taking the current developments in Russia and Ukraine, as well as our commitment to coordinate an effective response. Now, what that effectively means is European Union capitals have seen the news in recent days about the mobilization in Russia, about the stepping up of war efforts, about those nuclear threats, and are clearly concerned. Now, that meeting of the European External Action Services is what it's officially called. It's effectively like the foreign ministry of the EU. Those meetings do take place quite often, but what is rare, what happens very rarely, in fact, is ambassadors from European Union countries will attend that meeting in person. But that is what we have seen today, according to reporting out of Brussels and according to Czech sources. They say the main issues they want to discuss is just the general situation with Ukraine, whether more weapons might be needed, how to respond to these sham elections, as they're describing them, in those 4 regions of Ukraine. And I think most pressingly, because this is where there is a division within the EU, how to respond to all of those draft dodgers, those men desperately trying to get out of Russia now to avoid being called up by the military and sent off to the war in Ukraine. Some countries like Germany, where I am, have said, hey, look, we should consider giving these men asylum, letting them get out of Russia, because for every man that comes to the EU, it's one less on the battlefield. But other countries, especially in the Baltics and Central Europe that border Russia, say absolutely not. That is a major issue for national security, and we shouldn't be letting any Russians in right now.
So these are important issues. What then can we expect in the next few days?
Well, I think from this meeting we will see whether any sort of formal position may have been agreed upon on what to do with potential asylum seekers trying to leave Russia, those men aged 18 to 60. That would be quite elusive, just given how strong the views are within the bloc between certain countries. I think that will be difficult to achieve in the short term. I think where we may see some movement, however, is on the question of energy. Now, there is going to be another meeting on EU energy this coming Friday, where there's going to be discussions like a price cap on oil, and also whether there should be further investment on LNG infrastructure to help get liquid gas here from places like Asia and the Middle East. That will also be up for discussion on Friday. And then probably more importantly, then the week after, we are going to have an informal meeting of actual EU leaders. So presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, they will be meeting in Prague, the Czech capital, again, currently has the rotating presidency, where they're going to be just discussing all of these issues. Of course, the war front and centre for European leaders in terms of their concern, but also we're just days now away from the official winter heating season. That starts on the 1st of October. Clearly, concerns remain about energy security as it starts to get colder, and whether there is just any risk at all that rationing may be required in order to protect the electricity grid.
Reporting there on that EU crisis meeting called by the Czech Republic. Trent Murray, thank you, reporting live from Berlin.